The calm before the storm. The great hall of the Galactic Trade Council stretched before Ambassador Maya Rodriguez like a vast arena designed to make single speakers feel small and insignificant. Hundreds of alien delegates filled the curved seats, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes that would have been beautiful if not for the hostile energy radiating from most of them. Maya stood at the central podium, her simple blue diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by the other species representatives. Honored council members, Maya began, her voice carrying clearly through. The translation matrix. Humanity once again requests fair representation in the Outer Rim trade agreements. We offer our agricultural expertise, our medical knowledge, and our peaceful cooperation in exchange for equal partnership. A sound rippled through the chamber that the translation systems rendered as laughter, though it came from throats and vocal organs that had never known human mirth. Chairman Thorak of the Zephyrian hegemony leaned forward in his elevated seat, his crystal blue skin reflecting the chamber's lights, as his forearms gestured dismissively. Ambassador Rodriguez. Thorak's voice carried the particular tone that species throughout the galaxy had learned meant trouble for humans. Your people have made this same request for the past 15 cycles. The answer remains unchanged. Humanity lacks the industrial capacity, the military strength, and frankly, the evolutionary advancement to warrant equal treatment with the founding species of this council. Maya had heard these words before, in various forms, from various species. She maintained her diplomatic composure even as her jaw tightened slightly. Chairman Thorak, our medical supplies saved over 2 million Zephyrian lives during the Crimson Plague outbreak. Our agricultural techniques have ended famine on 17 worlds. Surely this demonstrates our value as partners rather than supplicants. General Crix of the Vex Confederation rose from his seat, his mechanical augmentations whirring softly as he moved. Half of his face was cybernetic, the result of what his species called evolutionary improvement, though Maya had always thought it looked more like voluntary disfigurement. The humans mistake charity for strength, he declared, his voice artificially amplified by his vocal implants. They give away their advantages freely, proving they lack the predatory instincts necessary for true galactic citizenship. Prime Minister Zelen of the Korthan Empire nodded agreement, her serpentine neck swaying hypnotically. Indeed, a species that prioritizes healing over conquest, farming over expansion, diplomacy over dominance. Such creatures are valuable, as servants perhaps, but never as equals. Maya felt something cold settle in her chest, but her training held firm. I would remind the Council that cooperation has always been humanity's preferred approach to galactic relations. We believe that mutual benefit serves all species better than exploitation, and that, Chairman Thorak said with what his species considered a smile, is precisely why you will never be more than junior members of the galactic community. The vote was as predictable as it was humiliating. 347 votes against, 12 in favor with 38 abstentions. Maya gathered her materials with steady hands, bowed respectfully to the assembly, and walked from the chamber with her head held high. She had done this same walk dozens of times before, but something felt different this time. There was a weight in the air, a sense that something fundamental was shifting. In the months that followed, the systematic harassment of humanity intensified. It started small, as it always did. Human merchant vessels found themselves subjected to random inspections that lasted for weeks, their cargo spoiling in storage. Human research stations were accused of dangerous experiments and shut down without evidence. Human diplomats were arrested on trumped-up charges and held in conditions that barely met the minimum standards for their species. Dr. Sarah Chen, head of the Human Medical Relief Mission to the Andorian sector, watched in helpless fury as Vex patrol ships destroyed her convoy's escort vessels and seized the medical supplies meant for plague victims. Those children will die without those vaccines, she transmitted to the Vex commander. Then perhaps their parents should have chosen stronger allies, came the reply, followed by cutting static as the transmission ended. Captain Michael Torres, commander of the research vessel Endeavor, found his ship surrounded by Korthan destroyers. As he tried to complete a geological survey, that could have provided early warning for seismic disasters. "You're in violation of Corthan territorial waters," the lead destroyer's commander informed him, despite the fact that they were in neutral space. "This system was designated neutral by the Treaty of Proxima," Torres protested. "Treaties can be reinterpreted," came the reply. Torres and his crew spent 3 months in a Corthan detention facility while their research was confiscated and claimed as Corthan property. Ambassador Maya Rodriguez found herself facing the council again, this time not to make requests but to lodge formal protests. "The systematic targeting of human civilians violates 12 separate interstellar accords," she stated firmly. "We demand immediate cessation of these illegal activities and compensation for damages." Chairman Thorak's laughter echoed through the chamber. "Humans and their demands. You have no fleet to enforce these demands, no economic leverage to compel compliance, no allies willing to risk their own interests for your sake. What exactly do you think gives your protests weight?" "International law, common decency, the recognition that today's victim could be tomorrow's ally against a greater threat," Maya replied. "Philosophy," General Crick spat. "Weakness disguised as virtue." The breaking point came on a Tuesday, Galactic Standard Time. The human colony, ship New Dawn, was 3 days out from Kepler Station, carrying 50,000 civilians to establish a new agricultural colony in the neutral zone. Families had sold everything they owned for passage. Children pressed their faces against viewports to catch their first glimpse of their new home among the stars, and elderly couples held hands as they prepared to spend their final years building something for future generations. The Vex attack came without warning and without provocation. General Crix himself led the assault, his flagship, Dominant Fang, emerging from hyperspace with a full battle group. The New Dawn was a civilian vessel with minimal shields and no weapons beyond point defense systems, meant for asteroids and debris. Captain Elena Vasquez was in the observation deck with her daughter Sophia when the first missiles struck. The 8-year-old had been drawing pictures of the farm they were going to build, her tongue sticking out in concentration as she colored in bright yellow suns over green fields. The explosion threw them both against the bulkhead, and Elena's last coherent thought before the darkness took her was the sight of her daughter's drawings scattered and burning on the deck plating. Of the 50,000 souls aboard the New Dawn, fewer than 300 survived. They were picked up by automated distress beacons hours later, their testimonies painting a picture of systematic execution rather than military engagement. General Crix had ordered his ships to target escape pods, medical bays, and children's quarters specifically. The galaxy waited for humanity's response. They expected the usual pattern: protests, appeals to the council, diplomatic complaints that would be filed away and forgotten. Some species even placed bets on how long it would take for human representatives to appear before the council, with their predictable demands for justice. Instead, something unprecedented happened. Every human transmission in the galaxy simply stopped. Not gradually, not with explanations or threats or final statements. One moment, human voices filled the communication networks with their constant chatter about trade routes and medical supplies and research data, and the next moment there was nothing but silence. Earth's embassy on the council station closed its doors without ceremony. Human merchants abandoned their cargo and disappeared from trade ports across the galaxy. Research stations went dark, their automated systems repeating the same message: human personnel have been recalled, station transferring to automatic protocols. For 72 hours, the galaxy experienced something it had never known in the 3 centuries since humanity joined the galactic community: complete and total silence from the species that had once filled every corner of space with their irrepressible optimism and endless offers of friendship. In the halls of power, alien leaders found themselves asking questions they had never needed to ask before. Where had all the humans gone? Why had their ships vanished from sensors as if they had never existed? And most disturbing of all, why was this silence so much more frightening than their loudest protests had ever been? When humanity shows its true face, the silence stretched into its 4th day when Chairman Thorak received the first report that would change his understanding of humanity forever. a Zephyrian patrol investigating the abandoned human research station at Vega 7 had discovered something impossible. The modest scientific outpost was built on top of a military installation that made the Zephyrian Empire's most advanced fortresses look like children's toys. "The entire asteroid has been hollowed out and reinforced," the patrol leader reported, his voice tight with something approaching fear. "Energy readings suggest weapon systems that don't match any known technology. And sir, there are dozens of these installations. Every human research station in our territory appears to be the same." Similar reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The Corthan Empire discovered that human agricultural colonies contained manufacturing facilities capable of producing enough advanced weaponry to outfit entire fleets. The Vex Confederation found that human medical supply ships carried enough firepower to level planets. Most disturbing of all, every major trade route was monitored by human installations that had been dismissed as simple communications relays, but were actually sensor networks capable of tracking every ship movement in real time. Dr. Elena Vasquez had survived the destruction of the New Dawn with injuries that should have killed her, but human medical technology had saved her life and done something more. As she stood on the bridge of the vessel that had rescued her, she looked nothing like the civilian colony administrator she had pretended to be for so many years. The uniform she now wore was black as space itself, marked with insignia that no alien database could identify. "Status report," she commanded, and her voice carried an authority that made hardened military officers across the galaxy seem like amateurs. "All Ghost Fleet units have reported ready status," replied her communications officer, a man whose medical records claimed he was a simple farmer from the Centauri colonies. "Operation Awakening is prepared to commence on your order, Admiral." Admiral. Not captain, not even commodore, but admiral. Elena Vasquez commanded a fleet that the galaxy had never seen because humanity had been very careful to make sure they never needed to see it. Ships emerged from hyperspace around every world that had participated in the systematic persecution of humanity. Vessels that moved with a precision and coordination that spoke of decades of training and preparation. The human merchant vessel, Peaceful Trader, that had serviced the Zephyrian home system for 20 years suddenly revealed itself to be a dreadnought-class warship whose weapon systems made the Zephyrian Imperial fleet look like toys. Its captain, a woman whom Zephyrian children had learned to greet with smiles and waves, now spoke with the cold authority of someone accustomed to commanding respect through superior firepower. "Attention, Zephyrian Command," she transmitted. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Space Navy. You have 1 hour to surrender your weapons and prepare for occupation." Chairman Thorax stared at the tactical display showing human ships surrounding his homeworld and felt something he had never experienced before, the absolute certainty that his species had made a catastrophic error. "Admiral Chen," he transmitted, "surely we can negotiate." "Chairman Thorax." Admiral Chen's voice cut through his words like a blade through silk. "For 3 centuries, my people have attempted negotiation. We offered friendship, cooperation, and mutual benefit. You responded with exploitation, humiliation, and finally, the murder of 50,000 civilians, including children and elderly. The time for negotiation has passed." The pattern repeated across the galaxy. Every species that had participated in the persecution of humanity found themselves facing the same terrible revelation. The peaceful, cooperative humans they had dismissed as weaklings were apex predators who had simply chosen not to show their teeth. Until now, General Crix of the Vex Confederation discovered that his impregnable fortress world was surrounded by human ships that had apparently been watching his every move for decades. The human cargo vessel that had been delivering agricultural supplies to his system for years revealed itself to be a battle cruiser, whose captain knew the location of every military installation, every command bunker, and every escape route Crix had prepared. "General Crix," the human captain transmitted, "my name is Admiral Marcus Torres. My brother Michael spent 3 months in your detention facilities for the crime of trying to save lives through seismic research. My niece Sophia was aboard the New Dawn when you ordered your ships to target the children's quarters specifically. Crix's augmented systems ran calculations and came to the inescapable conclusion that resistance was futile. His ships were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely outmaneuvered by an enemy that had been preparing for this moment for longer than he had been alive. "What are your terms?" he asked, the words tasting like ashes in his mechanical vocal cords. "Terms?" Admiral Torres laughed, and the sound contained no humor whatsoever. "General, you destroyed a ship full of children. There are no terms." The systematic nature of humanity's response became clear as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. This was not random violence or emotional revenge. Every target had been chosen with surgical precision, every action calculated for maximum effect. Species that had remained neutral or supported humanity found their territories untouched. Those that had actively participated in persecution found themselves facing occupation forces that knew their worlds better than they knew themselves. Prime Minister Zelen of the Korthan Empire watched her capital burn from the window of her detention cell and finally understood the magnitude of her species' mistake. The humans had not been weak. They had not been naive. They had been patient, methodical, and terrifyingly competent at concealing their true nature until the moment they chose to reveal it. The broadcast that ended the 72 hours of silence came from Admiral Elena Vasquez, transmitted simultaneously to every communications network in the galaxy. She stood before a backdrop of stars, her black uniform marking her as something the galaxy had never seen before. A human being who had stopped pretending to be harmless. "People of the galaxy," she began, her voice carrying to every world, every ship, every listening post in known space. "For 3 centuries, humanity has attempted to find its place among you through cooperation, friendship, and mutual benefit. We offered our knowledge freely, our assistance without condition, and our friendship to any who would accept it." Her expression hardened, and something in her eyes made viewers across the galaxy take an involuntary step backward from their screens. "You mistook our kindness for weakness. You mistook our patience for cowardice. You mistook our desire for peace for an inability to wage war. Today you learn the truth." Behind her, the tactical display showed the scope of humanity's hidden capabilities. Fleets that dwarfed anything the galaxy had seen, installations that had watched and waited for decades, technology that made the combined military might of all other species look primitive by comparison. "We are not farmers who learned to fight," Admiral Vasquez continued. "We are warriors who chose to farm. We are not scientists who built weapons. We are soldiers who chose to heal. We are not explorers who discovered strength. We are predators who chose to explore." The transmission showed images from across human space, agricultural colonies, revealing themselves to be military academies where human children learned tactics alongside botany, medical research facilities that had spent decades developing ways to wage war as efficiently as they waged peace, trade ships that carried enough firepower to sterilize worlds. The species of this galaxy chose to respond to our friendship with exploitation, our cooperation with domination, our peace with violence. You chose to murder our children, imprison our scientists, and steal from our merchants. You made these choices believing that we could not or would not respond in kind. Admiral Vasquez stepped closer to the camera, and every viewer in the galaxy felt the weight of a predator's gaze. You were wrong. The aftermath of what historians would later call the 72-hour awakening reshaped galactic civilization. The Galactic Trade Council was dissolved, its leadership imprisoned or executed for war crimes. The Zephyrian hegemony, Korthan Empire, and Vex Confederation found themselves under human occupation, their fleets dismantled, their weapons confiscated, their territories administered by species they had once dismissed as inferior. But perhaps the most profound change was in how every species in the galaxy viewed the humans they encountered. No longer did alien children point and laugh at human merchants. No longer did alien officials speak condescendingly to human diplomats. No longer did anyone make the mistake of assuming that humanity's preference for peace indicated an inability to wage war. Ambassador Maya Rodriguez returned to the rebuilt council chambers, but now she walked as an equal among equals, representing a species that had proven beyond doubt that it belonged at the table of galactic powers. The new council members treated her words with the respect due to representatives of apex predators who had chosen diplomacy over destruction. The human delegation, she announced during her first address to the new council, wishes to return to our previous offer of cooperation, friendship, and mutual benefit. We hope that this time, our fellow species will approach these negotiations with a clearer understanding of the alternatives. The vote was unanimous. In the years that followed, children across the galaxy would learn about the day humanity stopped pretending to be harmless. They would learn that the most dangerous species in the galaxy were not the ones that conquered through force, but the ones that chose not to use the force they possessed. They would learn that when a predator offers friendship, the wise response is gratitude, not exploitation. They would learn that some silences are more terrifying than any roar, and that when humans stop talking, the galaxy should start listening. Most importantly, they would learn that humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons or its technology or its hidden fleets. It was their capacity to choose peace even when they possessed the power to choose war, and their willingness to extend that choice to others until the moment that choice was no longer possible. The galaxy never forgot the day Earth went silent. More importantly, it never again gave humanity a reason to stop talking.